and David strapped his on as well. About 400 men went up with David, while 200 stayed with the supplies. Verse 14. One of the servants told Abigail, Nabal's wife, David sent messengers from the wilderness to give our master his greetings, but he hurled insults at them. Yet these men were very good to us. They did not mistreat us, and the whole time we were out in the fields near them, nothing was missing. Night and day, they were all around us. The whole time we were herding our sheep near them. Now think it over and see what you can do, because disaster is hanging over our master and his whole household. He is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. Verse 18. Abigail acted quickly. She took 200 loaves of bread, 2 skins of wine, 5 dressed sheep, 5 seahs of roasted grain, 100 cakes of raisins, and 200 cakes of pressed figs, and loaded them on donkeys. Then she told her servants, Go on ahead, I'll follow you. But she did not tell her husband Nabal. As she came riding her donkey into a mountain ravine, there were David and his men descending toward her, and she met them. Verse 21. David had just said, It's been useless, all my watching over this fellow's property in the wilderness, so that nothing of his was missing. He has paid me back evil for good. May God deal with David, be it ever so severely, if by morning I leave alive 1 male of all who belong to him. Verse 23. When Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at his feet and said,
Pardon your servant, my lord, and let me speak to you. Hear what your servant has to say. All right, so let's just end it there. With time, we would make reference. So this is, in summary, is about a very beautiful and wise lady called Abigail. And she happened to be married. In some versions, they will tell you a foolish man. She happened to be married to a foolish man. Now, someone will ask that, why would such a wise lady be married to such a man? But in some circumstances, you can't answer all questions. It is what it is. So, this lady happened to marry this man, and at a point in time, David, this man had some young men who would go on the field with his sheep and everything in the wilderness, and then David and his men will protect them till they came back home. So at a point in time, David, for just a kind gesture, David requested that Nabal gives him some of his sheep when he realized that he was at a point of, sharing his sheep. So he requested for this. He sent some of his men to go to Nabal and tell him that, kindly give me some of these things which I really need. And at the end of the day, Nabal emaneno insults. So David became very angry, and he decided to go there and ensure that he would destroy Nabal and the household, kill all the male there. Now, at a point in time, one of the servants who was with Abigail gave her the hint that David and his people have been very good to us. All those times where we go to the field, they have been protecting us. But here lies the case, they are in need, and the father of the house, Nabal, is denying them of that assistance at that critical point. And that servant decided to inform Abigail because he mentioned that Nabal was the type that they cannot even get close to him and tell him what the problem is. So quickly, Abigail had to intercept and then make sure that he will meet David there before David gets there. Now, Abigail took that decision without telling Nabal because it was obvious and everybody knew the kind of behavior Nabal found himself in. So she decided to tell him. She quickly went there and met him and then tried to calm tempers down before David got there. Now, when you read this passage, there are three main things that comes to mind. There is an aspect of humility. There is an aspect of wisdom displayed by Abigail. So we are looking at a humble woman, and we are looking at a wise woman, and we are looking at a diplomatic woman. So we are yet to analyze this and then take home. And we are believing God that by the time we leave this place, our ways of doing things and our perceptions will put us in that place as Abigail. Now, the first point that I want us to note, or lesson we can draw from this, is that you have to be approachable. As a lady of beauty and brains, you have to be approachable. Some of us, hi. Pardon me, but we carry ourselves, if I say approachable, I mean in the positive sense, okay? I am looking at a lady that when there are issues, people can have that confidence and approach you with their issues. Now, in the case of Abigail, the servant went close to her, assuming she was not approachable. Do you think the servant will be able to go to her and tell her what is about to happen to them? No. And that is how come you have some ladies, when they have some servants, or when they have people who are below them, or when they have some subordinates, they carry themselves in such a way as if they are always walking on the clouds, as if, as for them, they don't walk on the floor. And when you do that, you are not approachable. When there is something or some information that you need to get, you will be deprived of that information because you are not approachable. Now, this servant in verse 25, verse 14, this servant said, verse 25 and 14, the servant made a statement. He said, he is such a wicked man that no one can talk to him. So the servant was able to have confidence in Abigail because she was approachable. And that's how come she was able to get that all-important information to save her household. Now, the second thing I want us to also take note is that you have to avoid procrastination. Avoid procrastination. In verse 18, it says what? Abigail acted quickly. Abigail acted quickly. Some of us, there are some things that we are supposed to do and do it immediately. Oh, Ochinameye. Oh, Ochinameye. And tomorrow is never coming. Oh, Ochinameye. You have exams to write. And you want to wait till exams time before you learn. You are procrastinating. If you are a woman of beauty and brains, you will not procrastinate. And it might interest you to know that the timing of our actions can actually make the difference between life and death. There are certain things that when you are able to act on it, within time, it can save somebody's life. And that's the reason why you have to what? Avoid procrastination. Now, the third thing I want us to note is humility. Humility. Abigail exhibited humility. In verse 24, it says, when Abigail saw David, she quickly got off her donkey and bowed down before David with her face to the ground. She fell at her feet and said, "Pardon your servant, my lord, and let me speak to you. Hear what your servant had to say." So at that particular point in time, she had actually lowered herself as a servant just to get the attention of David. In life, there are times where some of the problems and the situations that we face might not necessarily be our fault. But just to let peace prevail, you just have to be humble and settle it. You find that you are having a grudge with your friend. or you have a grudge, or you have an issue with a superior, and you are being asked to just go and apologize. And you are all over the place. The fact that you apologize is not going to take anything away from you. It actually exhibits maturity. So at some point in time, it is very, very necessary that if you need and if you have to be humble at a particular point in time, just to get peace prevail, or just to let peace prevail and to get some things done, just go ahead and do it. And that's by far, you might not recognize it at that particular point in time, but you even realize that the person who even offended you, and the person is not ready to apologize, but you have to apologize for some reason, in one way or the other, you see the kind of respect the person will have for you. They may not voice it out, but from afar, they will really, really, really respect you. And that is how a woman of beauty and brains must behave. Now, when we say somebody is humble, it means that you are showing a modest or low estimate of your self-importance. At that particular point in time, it's not about how kokoti you make yourself, no. It is not about how highly you think of yourself. You just have to calm down and get what has to be done. Now, when we say somebody is wise, it's about having or showing ability to make good judgments based on deep understanding and experience of life. The ability to make good judgments. Turn to your sister and ask her, are you wise? As a woman of beauty and brains, you need to exhibit wisdom. There are certain things that when it comes before you, you are not supposed to act and react immediately. It is necessary for you to sit down, digest the issue in your mind, and have a good and a sound judgment of the issue before you talk. Some of us, our friends will come and gossip about our other friends to us. Hey, no, say then, me no, ya me no. Me ko shia no ho. Then there and then, washa Wellington boots, washa boxers or koku. Meanwhile, you haven't taken the time. It is even likely that the person who came to gossip is even the problem. And you will realize that with time, you will get to find out who really is the culprit. So please, let's try as much as possible to make good judgments before we act. Now, when I talk about being diplomatic, I meant these three things. That's in the passage. We will see an element of humility, wisdom, and then being diplomatic. Now, if we say somebody is diplomatic, it means that you have the ability to deal with people. Please listen. It means that you have the ability to deal with people in a sensitive and tactful way, mostly in a way that doesn't cause offense. You have to be what? Diplomatic. Okay, now let's look at the other lesson that we can draw from this. Proactiveness. Proactiveness. And proactiveness is creating or controlling a situation rather than just responding to it after it has happened. From afar, you can see that the way this thing is going, when the going becomes going, and you have to do something about it, you will wait till when the deed has been done. And at that particular point in time, it might become an irreparable damage, a damage that you can't repair. I say and I say. So being proactive means that you study situations. As a lady of beauty and brains, you look at issues. And if there is something you have to do it, now I swallow fast before the damage is caused. And that is exactly what Abigail did. Immediately she was given the information that David and his people are coming. They are coming to kill us. She quickly, before David came there, just to prevent him from coming to harm them. And that is proactiveness. So we should be able to act proactively to bring peace and tranquility in everything that we do. It's not being proactive in the negative way, but being proactive in the positive way. You go to class, maybe your lecturer is not yet around, and then everybody is sitting down, waiting for the lecturer. 1 hour is gone, 2 hours is gone, everybody is sitting down. It will take a proactive person to say that, okay, the lecturer is not around. Can we discuss our notes? Then at the end of the day, you make good use of the time. That is how proactive. There are some things you don't have to wait for somebody to tell you to do before you do it. When you can see that this particular thing, I need to address it, you are waiting for somebody to come and tell you before you do it. It doesn't show proactiveness. So as a lady of beauty and brains, you need to be proactive. Just like what Abigail did. The other thing I would like us to look at is our choice of words. Yekasa. Allow. We need to have good choice of words. Assuming Abigail had gone to meet David on the way. Can you imagine? Maybe she would have even gotten some slap there before the house. But she was careful and she was meticulous about the choice of words. And she spoke in such a way that persuaded David. And my David, yes. So as a woman of beauty and brains, we need to watch the way we talk, the kind of words that we use. When there is an issue and you realize that what you are going to say is going to cause more harm, please, it rather lies with you to use words that will rather calm the situation and not to escalate it. Some of us, our words are such that it's like pouring petrol into fuel. To rather escalate and make things worse. In verse 26, when Abigail met David, she said, "Please pay no attention, my lord." In fact, at that particular point in time, Abigail was calling David, "my lord." All because she had a positive agenda. So that she will be able to push that agenda. And that is how a wise person should behave. This is a positive agenda. So she has to do something that would grab his attention. She tried as much as possible to be persuasive positively to get her agenda through. Verse 26 says, and now, my Lord, as surely as the Lord your God lives, and as you live, since the Lord has kept you from bloodshed and from avenging yourself with your own hands, may your enemies and all who are intent on harming my Lord be like Nabal, and let his gifts, which your servant has brought to my Lord, be given to the men who follow. In fact, when you go through, she was using my Lord, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord, my Lord. She was tactful. Her words was such that it actually what? Calmed David's anger. So please, our choice of words, what we say, does the words that come out from our mouth, does it build or it destroys? The other thing I learned from this passage is about discretion, and a positive one in that matter. When we say discretion, is the ability to decide what should be done in a particular situation. So when we say that you are using your discretion to do something, it's not that somebody has told you, or every time someone has to tell you, please sweep, do this, do this. You are using your discretion. Out of your own will, you decide what should be done. And in this case, Abigail exhibited a positive discretion. She used her discretion to make arrangements to see David. She spoke to some of the servants to bring some of the sheep, the wine, and all those things, and meet David with it. And this is not something that she discussed with the husband. We are not saying that it is not necessary to seek someone's opinion. But at this particular point in time, Nabal was the stubborn type, like on Tiasem. He was the stubborn type. And at that particular point in time, it was a critical moment. So she looked at the situation and she decided to save the situation by using her discretion to make the arrangements to see David. As children of God, you can use your discretion, but always ensure that your discretion is inspired by the Holy Spirit. There are certain decisions that you want to take, and you might not necessarily have to ask someone. It might be a personal decision, a personal step that you want to take. When you are in tune with the Holy Spirit will always inspire you as to the kind of decisions you take. May the Holy Spirit inspire our discretion. Now, the last but not the least thing that I would want us to pay focus to, or to pay attention to, is that sometimes we should look at the right time to speak. We should be timely and know when it's right to do what. Now, when we read verse 36 to 37, it says, when Abigail went to Nabal, he was in the house holding a banquet like that of a king. He was in high spirits and very drunk. So she told him nothing at all until daybreak. Then in the morning, when Nabal was sober, his wife told him all these things, and his heart failed him, and he became like a stone. Now, when Abigail went, as the story is saying, Nabal was celebrating. He was drinking. Can you imagine that in that state, if Abigail were to tell him what she had gone to do, because Abigail had gone to do whatever she has to do, telling David that he should pardon her husband. She decided to inform Nabal, but at the time that she came, Nabal was not in a state to receive that information. So she waited till the following morning. Abrana and Sana Titi won in this. And she decided to tell him the steps that she took, which had saved all of them at that particular point in time. Sometimes we, the ladies, yes, I understand we are emotional. There are things that we want at a particular point in time. If you don't give it to us, hey, it's going to be hell. But we must be timely with some things. Can I see the married women here? Okay. The married women and men. Okay. Some married women will tell you that, hello? Some married women will tell you that if they want to ask their husband for a favor, they will wait. When the husband comes, she will serve him food and everything after he has finished eating before she will ask what she has to ask. Else, when he is hungry like that, and you are going to ask him for what you want, hell will break loose. So as a woman of beauty and brains, that is what Abigail did. She realized that at that particular point in time, it was not a good time for Nabal to receive that information. Sometimes you will see that you are right. There is something you want and it has to be done. But you have to check the timing. Otherwise, the information might not be well received. The information might not be well received to your satisfaction. So you have to be tactical and check the timing. Check the person's mood, the time. Is this okay to do this? It's like you have a friend whose mother is, diseased. And then you go and be telling her, tomorrow is my birthday. I want you to come. Are you wise? You are not wise. The timing is just not good for that information. Now, one other thing which looks a bit subtle that drew my attention, it doesn't look so loud, but it actually drew my attention, was the fact that I felt at a point in time, God delivered Abigail from the hands of Nabal. Now, when you read verse 37, it says, then in the morning when Nabal was sober, his wife told him all these things, and his heart failed him, and he became like a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal, and he died. God realized that this woman does not deserve this kind of man now. She doesn't deserve him. This woman is doing her possible best. They are two opposite people. This woman is wise, and the man is foolish. He's doing things anyhow. Can you imagine the sort of emotional and psychological and whatever problems Abigail will be going through? Can you imagine if you happen to live with somebody like that, even when you have a friend who is as notorious as anything? I am telling you, boy. I'm telling you, man. I'm loving your support. So, to some extent, I thought about it. I realized that God, in his own way, realized that Abigail, no, this man, no. So God freed Abigail.